My weaving studio is pretty messy, but it's like that about 90% of the time. So I figured, let's do a tour. All right, so here we go. This is the entire weaving studio, and I did not clean it up, and I did that on purpose because I really thought that you should see it, how it looks most of the time. Because if I had cleaned it up, I feel like that would be lying to you since it is rarely clean. So this is exactly how it was when I came downstairs this morning, how it's been for the last however many days. I can't remember the last time I cleaned it up. But actually, considering that, it is marginally cleaner than it is sometimes. Because then I can actually see some white space on this desk, which doesn't usually happen. So if we take a look at the studio, this is the entire studio. It is not very big. I like to think I've made the most of the space that I have. So this was supposed to be a dining room in our house. This is just off of our family room and our kitchen. So that doorway over there is our kitchen. You'll probably see my fridge as we get closer to that. And then this opening right here is from the family room into the studio. So it is just wide open. I would kind of like it to be closed off a little bit, but that's okay. And then that door is to our backyard. And that's actually the only window in the studio, which is also quite unfortunate. I do really love natural light. I think it brings a lot to the studio, but again, we work with what we have, and that's totally fine. I feel very lucky to have an entire space for me, for my artwork and for my weaving. So starting off over here, you can see the very first loom of the tour. I do have my brand new to me table loom, which as you can see is not being used as a table loom right now. I'm using it to house a studio light for when I am taking photos over on the desk or recording video for reels and things like that. I usually will turn that light on, and I'll turn these plant lights over to purely cool lighting, which is a really good thing about this specific light set, that I can do that. I bought it specifically for that purpose, so when I'm taking photos, not all my photos have a reddish tint to them. I can change it, and then I can change it back for something that is actually better for my plants. So speaking of plants, just a little tour over here. I have started collecting a lot of plants, and I really have enjoyed having them with me in the studio, right where I am when I'm working a lot of times. You may recognize this begonia. It shows up in a lot of photos and videos over on Instagram and Patreon and whatnot. This little baby's new. I have a drawing mannequin holding an air plant because I just thought that was so fun. Some lavender, and yeah, I really like that little space over there. And then, as I showed you before, there is a little bit of workspace here that if I move some things, I can get some stuff done. I just have a tendency to move stuff over and just try and work on the clean space whenever I need to. I'm really bad about actually putting things away when I'm done with them. Then up here we have most of my yarn, plus some books and some weaving storage up there. Yeah, the bottom shelf is all cottons, and then we have linen mixes up on that second shelf. The basket is kind of miscellaneous. We've got a whole container of yarn that needs to be put into balls or things like that. My winder and just all that fun stuff. And then I have a cork board over here with some fun things, some shows I've been in. We have my color wheel, some things you might recognize if you hang out on Warped Fibers. If you see anything that you recognize from a post, then let me know. That would be a fun little Easter egg. So I just like to keep stuff here that inspires me or I just think is really fun. For example, I found this paint swatch when we were out at a hardware store, and the name of it is Tapestry Thread, so I couldn't not take that. It felt like it needed to be on this wall for really no reason but because I thought it was kind of cool. Now over here we have what I call sort of my shipping station, which I kind of split up my shipping between this area and the area where I keep all my merchandise, which I will show you later in the video. But I have my thermal printer, a scale, there's stamps and my stickers and business cards and things like that in this box here. We've got some paper tape, scissors, a lint roller, and then that's also just kind of my temporary storage for a lot of those weaving necklaces that I'm currently making. And then, like I said, I'm being realistic here. So this stuff has been on the floor of my studio for a while. I've got 2 bags of yarn that I need to donate. I have a sewing machine. I have a weaving that was woven for my classed weft post, which if you haven't seen, you can check that out. That is up and live. Some bubble wrap from a new loom that you'll see in a second. Now over here, this is kind of fun. I haven't needed to rewarp my loom in a little while because I have a tapestry on it, and tapestries take me a little while to weave up. I'm currently using it as a rack to house some dried flowers, or some flowers that I'm drying, and I will probably be using for something in the future. And then I have a bunch of scarves on this mannequin here, but there's also more. We go down here to this nice, fun, messy pile. I have an entire bag of weavings that are unfinished, so either the fringe needs to be done, or the tails need to be woven in, or basically all of that. So we've got scarves, we have tea towels, I have samples from different blog posts. So this was from using novelty yarns in your weaving. Again, just more scarves. A lot of these are from different classes that I teach. I end up with a lot of scarves and tea towels because those are 2 classes that I teach pretty often. So it's just a bag of a lot of weavings that I have not had time to actually finish. We've got some frame looms behind there. And then I have what's actually a hamper that I use to hold my rigid heddles, as well as my umbrella swift, a tripod, and so on. And then finally, my floor loom. So despite having quite a small studio, I do have a decently large floor loom, and I think it's totally worth it. And admittedly, when I'm not weaving during that day, I usually use it to house and store some things because, again, limited space. So I have like a embroidery weaving, just some shuttles. Those are actually for the weaving, and a paper weaving that I finished but hasn't been mounted. But as you can see, there is a tapestry on here right now. I am playing with some fun texture. And some shaped salvages. And then if we come down here, we've got some more looms. Now, these don't always live here. Again, it's just kind of a matter of having a weaving website and constantly working on new things. So this loom at the front is a Kromsky Harp Forte that I just put together yesterday for a new post that's coming up. I actually got this from the same place I got the table loom from. It is secondhand, but it has never been used. I believe it was bought in 2014, never used. So it was completely still in the box, so I put that together yesterday. And it is a folding loom, just like my Shocked 15-inch here. The Kromsky's 24-inch. My Shocked is a 15. So I was comparing those. Of course, I have a bed for a studio dog. Our dog is currently upstairs in her crate, but that's where she likes to hang out. And to make sure she is safe, I felted a little ball that I have here. This would normally have your handle on it to crank your fabric beam, but I only have one handle, and I have it on the back right now. I usually just crank it by hand by turning it clockwise. But I didn't want my dog to hit her head on this or rub up against it or anything like that, so I felted a little hat for it. And then this is where I spend, honestly, a good chunk of my time in the studio. This is what I just call my studio chair. I've got my nice fuzzy blanket on it. And then this is actually my weaving bench. So instead of it being in front of my loom, a good chunk of the time it is over in front of my chair because I like to rest my laptop on it when I'm not currently using it. It's just kind of a nice space to have it so it is not on the floor. It just happens to fit perfectly around the cushion that I made for the loom bench. And hey, look, it's the Fiber Art Now magazine that if you check out one of my latest shorts, you can see that I'm actually in that magazine. So I also have my little cart, which usually has a drink and then some yarn, basket full of my solid state drives and different cords and things like that. I have multiple solid state drives that I use for all my videos, for my courses and YouTube videos and things like that. And then right here, this, I just have yet to find a good place to really keep this. This is just my bag that I take back and forth to my classes. And it is something that I will be bringing to the shop sometime, hopefully in the future. Let me know if you are interested in that. And then I also have a little bag here that I wove up to hang out on my bench to hold my shuttles. I like to keep a lot of my weavings on my walls. A big part of that is then I don't have to find a place to store them. I'm just storing them hanging up. It's also nice to just have artwork around me at all times. Now there is usually a different piece of artwork here, a bigger piece. If you actually watched my last video about packing up a weaving for a local art show, that paper weaving usually lives right here, but it is away at a show right now, so I just put something else there for the time being. This spot right here is actually what I call like my install wall, and when I have new artwork, I usually will take these things down, install the new artwork, and this is where I will photograph it for my website. But on the day-to-day, this piece usually lives here. It's pretty fragile. It's not something that I really want to pack up unless I have to, so it usually just lives on this wall. Plus an older piece. I've got a bunch of random things I didn't even show you on top of my loom here. And then one of my favorite pieces, still to this day, that I wove in 2020, just lives over here by my back door, just kind of on its lonesome by itself. And I just really like having it there to see all the time. And I do have other artwork that is wrapped up and put away, including I do store some artwork behind my loom. I do have a piece that I need to wrap up in some fabric, but I have some other pieces that are already wrapped up and they just kind of live there. And when you have a small space, you're kind of forced to make decisions just based on the space that you have. And if that means utilizing space behind your loom, pushing it up against the wall, it means utilizing vertical space is very important. Whether you have a small studio or not, you should really utilize your vertical space. And as a bonus, having shelves with yarn on it, it makes it feel like a really nice inspirational space to me. I'm a big fan. So all of the Warp Fibers shop products are housed upstairs in a different room in my house because, as you could see, there's really no space to put that in the regular studio. So sometimes I affectionately refer to this room as the second studio, but it also happens to be our guest bedroom. And because of that, it's really not that messy. I've got a couple things out on the bed, but generally I try and keep this room a little bit neater than the studio since people sometimes sleep in here. As you can see, we have a bunch of embroidery weaving kits that are all ready to go, all put together. All of these baskets hold either components for the kits or other products. So for example, in here we have our warped weaver pouches. We also have all of the art cards and their envelopes hanging out here and ready to ship out, ready to go. And then, like I said, we have components. So embroidery hoops, we have our snips, markers, needles all ready to go, regular pouches, tissue paper, and whatnot. This is also the room where I keep the extra shipping supplies. So we have some crinkly paper here that I use instead of bubble wrap because I really try and limit our single-use plastics. So I keep the paper mailers in here that are already stamped and ready to package up the kits and other products, and as well as I use the space for extra canvas storage. So over here I have a little bookshelf that houses more shipping items, as well as some magazines for some collage, some of my tapestry samples for my tapestry weaving class. Of course, we've got some more plants. and some more artwork. So this is a piece that I did when I was a senior at VCU. And then this piece was something that I did once I was out of school, but I never actually finished it. It's actually attached to the wall just with thumbtacks because I never really figured out how to back it. So it's pretty flimsy. I would never ship this, and so therefore I never really considered it finished. But it is something that I think, or at least it's an idea that I think I want to come back to at some point. And if you follow me on Instagram, and you have been for a while, this actually might look familiar to you because I have a lot of in-progress photos of this piece, and this is where it lives. So that's the entire studio, plus a little bit of the storage space for the shop. So as you can see, not very big, but very messy, and that's totally fine. Your studio space does not have to be huge. It can be messy. It doesn't even have to be a room. It could be like a corner of your house where there's like a basket with yarn in it, and that's totally fine. Just find a space where you can create. You can weave anywhere that you have a loom and some yarn. So please like, comment, subscribe, all those fun YouTube things, but most importantly, happy weaving.